She wakes up alone. Eats alone. Sleeps in silence. And not because no one wanted her, but because she stopped waiting to be chosen. You see, there's something unnerving, almost threatening, about a woman who lives without a man. No boyfriend. No husband. No daily affirmations from a partner. Just her mind, and her life. Some say she's lonely. Others say she's powerful. Some call her broken. Others call her free. But the truth? It's not that simple. This woman, she's not a stereotype. She's not the romanticized version of Miss Independent plastered on social media. She's something deeper. More raw. More complicated. More honest. She lives outside the system, and that system doesn't know what to do with her. Because she refuses to play the old game. She won't beg for attention. She won't shrink for love. And she won't apologize for the space she takes up in a world built to contain her. In today's episode, we're peeling back the layers. We're diving into the psychology, the pain, the power, and the paradox of women who choose solitude over subservience. It's not always glamorous. It's not always clean. But it's real. This is not a love story. This is not a warning. This is a mirror, and if you look closely, you might just see yourself. Welcome to The Truth About Women Who Live Alone Without a Man. Shadow Mind is here with you. Let's begin. 1. She is both the hunter and the hunted. She walks through the world with keys between her fingers and her intuition sharpened like a blade. No one taught her how to be this way. Life did. Experience carved the lessons into her bones. Because when a woman lives alone, she isn't just living, she's surviving. She becomes both the provider and the protector, the hunter and the hunted. She pays the bills. Fills the fridge. Changes the locks. She navigates streets at night with her head high but senses on alert. Her freedom isn't just something she enjoys, it's something she guards. Relentlessly. You see, a woman who lives alone learns the rules of the world in ways others never do. She understands how to read a man's eyes in the elevator. She knows the difference between harmless small talk and the start of manipulation. She has learned to trust her instincts more than anyone's advice, because sometimes, her safety depends on it. But here's the paradox, the deeper truth most won't say out loud. While she's out there hunting her dreams, building her peace, chasing her purpose, she is also preyed upon by a culture that doesn't like what it can't control. Her independence is romanticized, but only to a point. Too much solitude, and she's cold. Too much strength, and she's intimidating. Too much self-sufficiency, and suddenly, she's damaged. So she walks a thin line between empowerment and judgment. She has to be strong, but not too strong. Soft, but not too soft. Open, but not vulnerable. Always aware, never truly safe. This is the reality no one puts in empowerment quotes. She didn't choose solitude because she hates love. She chose it because she finally realized that not all love is safe, and not all company is better than being alone. She's not a victim. She's not a hero. She's something far more complex, a woman who carries both the shield and the scar. And every day, she wakes up and chooses herself again. Not because it's easy, but because no one else showed up willing to love her the way she now demands from life, with honesty, depth, and no hidden agenda. So yes, she is the hunter. She chases meaning. Builds her own table. Writes her own rules. But make no mistake, she is also the hunted, by a world that doesn't understand how she survived without it. But she did. And that, in itself, is terrifying, to those who never learned how to stand alone. 2. She's not avoiding men, she's avoiding weakness. There's a myth that surrounds women who live alone. That they're bitter. That they're running from love. That they've given up. But the truth? She's not avoiding men. She's avoiding weakness, in all its disguised forms. You see, after enough years of soft betrayals and quiet disrespect, she began to see it clearly. It's not about gender. It's about energy. It's about who drains her and who sustains her. And many men, not all, but many, have come with a cost. A cost to her peace. Her purpose. Her clarity. Her self-worth. She's learned to study the patterns, not just the promises. The energy behind the charm. The silence behind the affection. The inconsistency masked as mystery. And over time, she realized something painful but liberating. It's not that she doesn't want love. It's that she refuses to downgrade her life for the illusion of it. She doesn't need a man to save her. She needs a man who's done saving himself, someone whole, not hungry. Because she's not a rehab center for broken masculinity. She's not a muse for emotional boys playing dress-up as men. She's a woman, one who had to build herself from ash. And the moment she stopped accepting half-effort, half-grown, half-awake partners, the world started calling her difficult. But they don't understand. She's not difficult. She's discerning. Because weakness isn't always loud. Sometimes it comes in the form of sweet words with no backbone. Promises with no action. A man who needs her to shrink so he can feel tall. That's the weakness she's learned to recognize. And reject. She knows that loneliness isn't the scariest thing in the world. Settling is. Losing yourself just to be touched by someone who doesn't even see you, that's the real hell. So yes, she's alone. But not because she's afraid. Because she's finally brave enough to wait for something real, or walk alone until the end if it never arrives. She would rather live in truth than in a lie wrapped in flowers. Rather be single and sane than partnered and suffocated. To the outside world, she may seem cold. But it's not ice, it's fire contained by wisdom. She's not punishing men. She's protecting herself. Not closing off, but filtering out. She knows what's at stake. Her life is not a rehearsal. Her peace is not for rent. So when you see her, walking alone, eating alone, living alone, don't mistake her solitude for sadness. She is not hiding from love. She's just finally loving herself more than the fantasy. And that kind of woman. She doesn't run from men. She runs from weakness, and anything that dares ask her to dim her light again. 3. Independence is her drug, and her poison. Let's be honest, not every woman who lives alone is truly free. Some are addicted to control. Independence, for them, is not empowerment, it's a survival mechanism. She tells herself she doesn't need anyone. That she's better off alone. And on some days, that's true. But on others, it's a lie she tells so well, even she believes it. She's built walls so high, even she can't climb them. She's built routines so rigid, even joy struggles to breathe in them. Her rituals are sacred. Her space is her sanctuary. But every fortress eventually becomes a prison, if you never open the gate. She's mastered solitude, but forgotten how to receive. She's so used to doing everything herself that the thought of letting someone help feels like weakness. She doesn't ask. She doesn't expect. Because expectations always led to disappointment. And that's the wound. Hyperindependence is often born not from confidence, but from betrayal. From abandonment. From years of being the only one she could count on. She doesn't say this out loud. She doesn't wear her scars like jewelry. No, she wears strength like armor. And who questions the woman who looks untouchable? But underneath the armor, there's exhaustion. There's softness she no longer knows how to express. There's a little girl who once needed safety, and never found it. So now, she's become her own protector. Her own provider. Her own everything. And that sounds noble, doesn't it? But even warriors need rest. Even queens need comfort. Even the strongest woman craves a space where she can take off her crown and simply be. The problem is, she's forgotten how. She's confused connection with vulnerability. Dependence with danger. Love with loss. So she stays alone, not just out of preference, but out of fear. Fear of losing herself in someone else. Fear of needing and being let down. Fear of being seen in her rawest form, and being rejected for it. This is the dark side of independence. When it becomes a wall instead of a window. When it protects you, yes, but also isolates you. When it convinces you that silence is safer than intimacy. There's a difference between being whole on your own and being so guarded that no one can reach you. She walks that line every day. And maybe one day, she'll learn that true strength isn't in doing everything alone. It's in knowing when to let someone in, and trusting yourself enough to survive if they leave. But until then, she'll keep drinking her drug. Her independence. Her poison. Because it numbs the ache of needing, and that, for now, feels safer than hope. For, she has secrets no one will ever hear. There's a special kind of silence that follows a woman who lives alone. Not the silence of peace, the silence of memory. She walks through rooms like a ghost she made peace with. The air doesn't move unless she tells it to. The lights stay off until she allows the day to begin. But within that stillness, echoes remain. She remembers. She remembers the man who loved her, just enough to keep her hoping, never enough to make her stay. The one who kissed her like a promise and walked away like a thief. The one who wanted her body but flinched at her brilliance. The one who said she was too much because he couldn't stretch far enough to meet her depth. She remembers how many times she dulled herself down. Made herself smaller. Quieter. More palatable, just to be chosen. And now, she lives in full sunlight. Even if it burns sometimes. Even if it blinds those who once tried to contain her. She has secrets. Not the messy kind. Not the scandalous kind. But the sacred kind. The kind carved into the softest parts of her, hidden beneath strength and grace and a quiet, knowing smile. She has no one to whisper them to. So she stores them between her bones. She threads them through the pages of her journal she'll never let anyone read. She tucks them behind the way she laughs, and the way she looks away just a second too long. And somehow, that becomes power. Because when no one knows where you've been, no one can weaponize it. When your pain is yours alone, no one gets to define you by it. There is a fierce, unspoken freedom in keeping something only for yourself. Not out of shame, but out of choice. Her solitude isn't emptiness. It's a sanctuary. A space where she doesn't have to translate herself into something understandable. A space where she doesn't have to relive the past just to prove she survived it. And when people look at her and say, "You're so strong," they have no idea what that strength costs. They don't see the nights she held herself together like broken glass. They don't know the weight of the silence she carries. But she doesn't need them to know. Because that's the thing about women like her. They don't seek validation. They don't explain. They don't confess. They just continue. With grace. With mystery. And with the kind of silence that commands more respect than any scream. 5. The world fears what it can't define. The truth is, women who live alone disturb the social order. They don't fit the molds that make people feel safe. They're not playing house. Not climbing ladders to earn a man's last name. Not checking the boxes society wrote for them decades ago. They aren't wives. They aren't mothers. They aren't caretakers. They are something else entirely, and that unnerves people. They're not dependent. They don't need a partner to validate their existence. They don't measure their worth by relationship status, by rings, by titles. They're not chasing attention. They're not out at every party, screaming for visibility. They aren't loud, not in the way people expect from the liberated woman. They just exist. Quietly. Deliberately. Unapologetically. And that's terrifying. Because society depends on predictability. On conformity. On people playing their roles without asking too many questions. But these women. They've chosen a different script. One where solitude isn't exile, it's elevation. Where their time belongs to them. Their energy is not for public consumption. Their love isn't handed out in desperation, but guarded like a sacred flame. They don't need permission to live. They don't need approval to breathe. And that makes them dangerous. Not because they harm anyone, but because they shatter illusions. They prove that it's possible to live without compromise. To find contentment without clinging. To love yourself in a way that doesn't demand someone else's confirmation. And when the world sees that, it panics. Because it depends on your doubt. Your insecurity. Your belief that you're incomplete unless someone else claims you. But a woman who has claimed herself. She's untouchable. She's a glitch in the system. A reminder that the old rules were never sacred, just familiar. That the roles we were told to play aren't the only paths to meaning. People will call her cold, too independent, unreachable. But what they really mean is, I can't control her. I don't understand her. She makes me question everything I thought I knew. And that's the point. She's not here to be understood. She's not here to make others comfortable. She's here to be real. To be whole. To be free. And whether the world fears her, mocks her, or romanticizes her, she'll keep walking her path. Because when a woman reclaims her narrative, she doesn't just change her life. She changes the story for everyone who comes after her. So here we are. At the end of a story that isn't really over, because women like this are still out there. Still walking alone. Still building lives that don't revolve around anyone's expectations but their own. They are not broken. They are not bitter. They are not waiting. They are choosing. And in that choice, there is power, and pain. There is freedom, and fire. Because a woman who lives alone isn't just living without a man. She's living without the noise, the compromise, the performance. And that kind of life demands courage. It's not for everyone. But it doesn't have to be. It's for her. And that's enough. The world may not understand her. They may label her, dismiss her, even fear her. But the truth is, she doesn't need to be understood. She only needs to be real. Her life isn't a rebellion, it's a reclamation. Of time. Of peace. Of self. So if you've ever looked at a woman who stands alone and wondered how she does it, know this. She's not empty. She's not lonely. She's not lost. She's just not willing to shrink anymore. She's walking a path that's hers and hers alone. And maybe, that's the most radical thing a woman can do in a world that still wants her silent, soft, and small. But she's not here to please the world. She's here to remind it. That wholeness isn't found in being chosen. It's found in choosing yourself.